season, motherfuckers! We're buying low! We're selling for more than pay! Let's go!
The Sock Jig Sneaker Podcast. Listening is like renting me as a friend for 30 minutes. Episode 3, the Sock Jig Sneaker Podcast. Welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. You can follow me on Twitter at SockJig and on Instagram as well at SockJig. Welcome back. How's it going? I wanted to say, first off, thank you to everyone who bought the socks that I dropped last week, the Fjord blue ones. As I mentioned, the secret here is they're actually gray, but if you call them blue like Kanye does, your eyes see blue. I actually didn't have as many socks at this time as I have in previous drops. And this time I just done things a little bit different. I did a shock drop. I didn't even tell my friends or anyone. People were messaging me afterwards, hey, how do I get those? And I said, that was just a shock drop. I wanted to do something like that just because I can. And in previous times I had done like group buys and stuff too, where I approach groups that have been nice to me and ask them if they want, a small allocation set aside for them. But this time I didn't, and so I left them all on there, and they were all gone. So thank you for everyone who ended up buying them for me. And if you missed out, there will probably be more socks coming up in the next couple of months here. Black Friday is coming up, so I'm looking to do something for that again. Maybe even bringing back the black or the cream ones. Slightly different, maybe not exactly like the first OG ones that I dropped. But if you did miss out, they should come back. And once again, thank you for everyone who did buy. If there's a sponsor for the Sock Jig Sneaker Podcast, it's coincidentally, it's Sock Jig Socks. It's kind of like that Marc Jacobs by Marc Jacobs for Marc Jacobs thing. Same thing. Thank you, Sock Jig, for sponsoring the Sock Jig Sneaker Podcast with your Sock Jig socks. Sock Jig really appreciates it. What is that? Third person? Fourth? Yeah, I don't know. On feet today, I had the Air Max 1 Atmos Elephant 2017 sneakers. Sometimes if you just it's been a slow week and you don't pick up anything, I usually just take out some heat like this. And those are the kind of shoes that are just too good not to wear. So, and my lesson on those is I originally had 3 pairs of those, and back then I was like, well, I only need one, so let me just get rid of the other 2. So the lesson here is never sell good shoes. Just keep them. Sell the junk, keep the good shoes. And that leads to the pickups. I didn't really pick up anything this week, and I'm kind of in a washed week. Really, I only wanted that Supreme microphone, but once I saw it was $258. Yeah, I'll pay $158, but not $258. And this week I didn't really get up in the morning for the rubber dunks. It's an all right shoe. I don't hate it that much. The black and green one is probably the nicest one. From what I saw, stores had pretty good stock. They had from 200 to 300 pairs. And it's just one of those shoes that even if I did have it, it would never be my go-to. I would pick out any other off-white I have before I get to that one. So that's what I mean earlier. Sell these kind of shoes. Keep the good ones. And the other release this week was the Carbon 350 Yeezy. I skipped this. It's just not something I wanted to wear myself. I don't wear 350s anymore. And even resale wise, I'm not going to get it same day. I'm not going into any store. By the time I would get it in hand on the West Coast here, it'll probably be a brick. So you'll just have to hold it for a year only to make $30-$40, which, is totally fine. A lot of people do that. It's just not something I felt like doing on this one. Sometimes I do it. Sometimes I don't. Like I said, sometimes it's okay to get off the Ferris wheel of this cycle that everyone's in. And, you can get back on anytime you want. And as you may have seen, stock was pretty high for these allegedly, but it was still a difficult cop to get. The weird thing about these is they drop at 7 a.m. Eastern. So that's 4 a.m. my time. Yeah, I don't want to get up for these. Half the country doesn't want to get up for these. So, my theory is most of the people who are buying these resale are West Coast who didn't want to get up that early. And I bet most of that is just retailers hedging their bets, assuming that they should sell theirs before Yeezy Supply drops theirs, which is usually like, 6 a.m. or Pacific time, or 9 a.m. Eastern. Or that's just Adidas that they've told retailers, hey, this is a set time where you have to release and it's got to be before us. And this is one of those shoes where you can kind of do whatever you want with this. You can sell it same day. You can, say only no tax, free ship, states should buy it. Or like I saw a lot of people, they were just buying as many as they could because they have the capital to hold. So you can buy one, you can wear it. You can buy two, you can hold them. You can buy 200 and you can hold them. Whichever way you think these are going to go. And one thing that I've seen is, the Bay size Yeezy 350s like never fail. So the people who are holding know that, and that's what they're counting on. So the people who are in those sizes, the women who love these shoes, once they're worn, once they're harder to get, there's going to be hundreds and hundreds of pairs available for them, and the people who held it are going to be the ones selling. The other thing I wanted to say is I wanted to say thank you to everyone who reached out and expressed an interest in wanting to make a guest appearance on this podcast. I really appreciate it. Like I said in the previous episodes, I just want to get some reps in. This podcast right now is, not a polished product by any means. The goal is to kind of eventually translate the voice that I have on Twitter into podcast form. And that's it's impossible to just kind of snap your fingers and get right to that. So, for now, like I said, just doing my reps here, getting some practice in, getting a little bit more comfortable. Each episode will hopefully be a little bit better than the previous one. And then once that I feel I'm at a good state where I feel comfortable, and then I'll start adding guests and other stuff. So, but for now, Twitter's still my main thing. That's where I am for just whatever jokes and opinions that I have. And this is kind of just an addendum to my Twitter feed itself. And eventually I'll add segments here, and maybe even sponsorships and things like that, things that are podcast exclusive. But for now, this is what you get. If you're listening, I appreciate you. Thank you. The sneaker guy of the week this week is the arbitrary rule or budget guy. This is the person who gets overwhelmed from sneakers, either because of budget, or they just see that they had got too much lately, or, maybe a significant other said something. And then they feel the need to make up an arbitrary rule or set an arbitrary budget. Like, I'm only going to spend $150 on sneakers this month, which is like nothing. You're going to buy a pair of Vans. Or no more sneakers for 3 months. And then there's, some of these ones are like wild, and some are more reasonable. Like, I'm going to buy one and then I'll sell one. Or, and then it gets unreasonable. Like, I'm so mad at sneakers. I'm uninstalling the app and I'm getting rid of everything, and no more Nike for the rest of the year. I'm like, come on. No one's going to do that. And the sneaker guy of the week, this guy always breaks these rules. So it's like, why even make them up? You're just like, it's like doing some mental gymnastics for no reason. Most of you guys can't even go a week without buying sneakers. So who are you really kidding? So if you lie to yourself and you make up an arbitrary rule about how or when you're going to buy some sneakers, and that you'll break, then you are the sneaker guy of the week. One of the first topics I wanted to talk about is cook groups and some of the keys to operating and running a cook group. If you don't know what a cook group is, just kind of go back and listen to any other podcast I've been a guest on where I've went on to explain it. And like even cook group, saying it out loud, it sounds kind of weird. Anyways, some of the keys to a good cook group that I've noticed is, the usual stuff. Like, you have to have good monitors from a wide variety of sites. It's got to be reasonably priced. Some charge more, obviously offer more. And one of the other keys is you got to have a lot of people that moderators that post a lot of information about lots of different things. And this is where you kind of see where a group has to have feature parity with other groups. So if one group is, say, offering cards or bricks or Funkos or, other art things that flip, In the summer you saw pools and things like that flipping. There was people, their moderators, updating and giving that kind of info out. And what you'll see is most of these groups rent the monitors from someone else, usually like someone like Zephyr or a couple others. So at a monitor level, most of them offer the same product, so they don't really compete at that. The ones that do compete at that usually have their own custom monitors. And one of the other things was like people who are in these groups, I had sent out a tweet a while back saying, most of them, they're not even in there for the monitors. They're just renting friends. They have they've got friends that they've made in the chat channels, and those are long-term friends. They don't want to miss out on talking with them, so that's why they're there. It's like a social club for them. And for actual owners of groups, the key for them is to have good moderators and treat them well. These are the people who are going to be answering messages, answering DMs, giving release information. There's so many releases that you just can't keep on top of them all. And if you're renting information, you don't know anything about cards, so you're renting ZMed, or as they call them in Canada, ZMed. Pay him on time, that kind of stuff. The other key for owners is, your members should be washed. Those are the people who are going to pay money. Those are the people that need info. The guys who are experts at this, they're somewhere else. They're at the point where they don't even need monitors or groups or anything. They kind of operate on their own. You need people who don't know what they're doing, who need help, who need their hand held. And that's why I say that good moderators are the key for you guys. For owners of groups, to get those watch members, you need an owner that has some clout, that has a personality, that is the leader of the group. And if you started a group right now, say called XYZ Notify or something like that, and it was all anonymous, no one knew who had it, the only way to stand out is by success, by showing that you can hit sneakers, that you have good monitors, that you have good information. You have to post success. But guess what? Everyone has that. And success is hard to come by these days because the stock is less and less, and it's hard to differentiate yourself by just being successful as an anonymous person. But it's easier to differentiate yourself as a personality. What do you bring different than anyone else? And that's where clout goes a long way. That's where an owner that has a personality goes a long way. An owner that is likable. And that's where Wash members want to be around someone like that. And Shaw is the model for this. Shaw Real Smooth on Twitter, if you don't know who I'm talking about. And he's responsible for a lot of these newer personalities that you've been seeing online on YouTube or on Twitter. And someone like a Florida reseller or Burger Kicks and stuff, they owe a lot to Shaw because he showed the model of someone who's like fun, is outgoing, puts really like loud videos out there, and people like him. So, and then when he started a group, people want to be around him. So I think I know a lot of people have a problem with him. I don't have any problem with him, but I think he's awesome. He is the model for all this. He knows what he's doing. And a lot of these personalities that are creating their own friends and family discords and charging monthly for that, they're following his path that he's blazed for everyone. So shout out Shaw. The other thing I've noticed is that some of these owners, once their group gets to a certain level, they kind of they fall back. They let the moderators do more of the work. They don't come around as much, and I think that's a big mistake. I think they should be in the trenches, out there with the people, out there with the watch people, who are there to be around someone like you. So don't become lazy. Be there and there. Be there with you. If you're a man of the people, be there with the people. And you don't necessarily need clout for this. Clout does go a long way. But if you're an owner, if you're there with the people, you're there answering questions, and you're willing to be around people who are washed and answer washed questions, I think your group will go a long way. And that's what some people just don't want to be around washed people. They want to be around people who are more at their level. So I think that's a mistake. I think that's a way to stand out. But personality goes a long way. And, these are just my thoughts as an outside observer, as an independent reporter. So, I don't run a group. I don't know what it's actually like. So if someone could tell me what their experience is, feel free to at me on Twitter. But this is consider this a third party viewpoint. And also, this is not an advertisement for myself. I don't want to be an owner of a group. I do have a fictional cook group called Ding Dong Notify, though. Shout out Ding Dong Notify. Hey, let's hear 6ix9ine shout it out.
Yo, I want to give a big shout out to Notify.
That was so stupid. When I posted that, I was like, I should just delete this. But oh well, send tweet. Finally, I want to talk about the Warren Lotas Staple Jason dunk that he's releasing, which he calls an official reinterpretation of an effing classic. And so I wanted to kind of lay out a few things. I wanted to go through it, go through from Warren Lotas's perspective, Nike's perspective, and Jeff Staple, and then kind of give my opinion. The first thing I want to talk about is the term, like, what should we call these shoes? And are they fakes or what are they? I think the proper term for these are knockoffs. Fakes are like designed to make you think that it's the real shoe, that it's an actual like counterfeit fake pair of Nikes that have Nike branding. These do not have Nike branding other than a swoosh that's kind of modified like Jason. So I think knockoff is a better term. And there's in the sneaker world, there's lots of shoes that have been inspired by other shoes. Luxury brands do this a lot. Skechers does this a lot, and Skechers is actually a company that Nike and other Adidas and other brands have gone after because they do blatantly rip off. But here, Warren Lotas, what he basically did was he took a Nike Dunk and he recreated it by himself in what he says in an Italian factory, the same one that makes Saint Laurent and Jimmy Choo or something like that, he claimed. So what he basically did was he paid for his own molds at this factory, and these molds are super expensive. So it could be like 10 to 15K to make one size 9, for example, and another 10K to make another one. So, but we'll get to that a little bit later. But what I did see was if you were actually viewing as the sales were going on with a Chrome plugin called Shopify Inventory Viewer, you could actually see how many he was selling. And from what I saw was he basically sold around 25,000 of these. So, which is kind of a lot. So in case you missed it, what Warren did was he made it available to anyone to pre-order for 15 minutes. So he said he wanted everyone that wants it to be able to get it. So for 15 minutes, you could see orders coming in. Anyone could order. So for those 15 minutes, anyone could, add to cart and check out and order, and they would be guaranteed their pair, but they would get it 3 to 4 months later. So let's break it down a little bit. Let's start with Warren Lotas here. And, one of the things that struck out to me when he said, love me or hate me, that this is what I want to do. And, from that, what that means to me is he knows that, the people that don't like him are just as important as the people who do love him, because that means that he's hitting a nerve. He's getting through among all the rest. So the people who say shit about him, he's probably at the point where he's like, good, I need more haters. If you look at his Instagram, you'll see kind of his style. Warren is a guy who does like, a comic book kind of drawings and stuff, and sells it at high prices at a almost semi-luxury price. But he is like this kind of clown prince where it is easy to make fun of him because he does put himself out there. He is a buffoon sometimes, and he does shitty things too. What a good example is this Milwaukee Bucks jersey, a hoodie that he had released that was like the shittiest quality. It was like this purple thing with a real tree. And what he does he basically does these false advertising where he makes these mock-ups, and then the product that you get, it looks nothing like the mock-up. a couple of people posted these Milwaukee Bucks things to me, and I posted this hoodie, and it looked like shit. It was like this pill to purple thing. And you could even, if you look through Grailed, you see all these examples of people like complaining, or even on the Instagram posts, people just complaining that this is not what they wanted. A couple of people said there, when they contacted customer service said, well, you can get a refund if you pay for the shipping, that kind of stuff. So I tweeted this out. It got a bunch of likes and retweets, and people were like, what the hell is this? And then I saw, I think it was the next day, he actually posted on his Instagram stories, and he said, I want to address this Purple Bucks hoodie situation. This is 100% my fault. Finding a Realtree hoodie blank that isn't incredibly lightweight proved to be impossible. And after a dye wash, they came out even lighter and pillier. I thought they were good, but in the back of my mind, I had doubts. Okay, if you had doubts, why'd you make this? Because I think I know why. Because you had people's money. So, I think that's an important note, and we'll get back to that a little bit later. And so then he said, every customer who ordered a Purple Bucks hoodie is receiving a care package that will contain tees or hoodies from past collections. And if we run out of that, we will make something new for you. Your support and trust means everything, and I will make this right. Okay, that this is all good that he did all that stuff, but he wasn't going to do jack shit until I said something about this, until the tweets that I put out got some traction. What were you going to do that before that? You're going to ask people to pay for shipping it back and then refund it. So this is what I mean, where he's like this clown prince, where he does things right sometimes, and he does the shitty things other time, and then he's hoping it skirts back, and all the while he's trying to like make as much money as possible, which is fine, but don't do false advertising. Another thing he did recently was he started needling the vintage community, and he recreated this Marvel Weapon X t-shirt of like this half kind of skull that's like burning, and there's cables and stuff coming out. And in the mock-up that he has, the guy is kind of like off center. There's flames all over the shoulders, and the cables are all really bright, and it looks just like the vintage stuff. And then if you look in the Instagram, if you don't believe my word, just search his Instagram and check what people are saying. He's like, wow, what we got is like nothing like this. Like we got bamboozled. He goes, zoom in on the print and see what he has versus what we got. And sure enough, if you look at the photos on Grailed, you'll see the real photos on Grailed, and they don't look like that. The guy is like in the middle, and he's like his face of his shape look like it's been in the vice, like he's in Casino, and the colors aren't bright, and it's just way off from what the original was. So he pitches one thing, and then he delivers another thing, and then people complain, and then he'll tell them, hey, just ship it back. But if someone else actually calls him out on it, maybe he'll do something. I don't know, maybe I'll send a couple tweets of this too after this podcast is out. The other big player in this is obviously Nike, and obviously Nike probably is not a big fan of this. I doubt they like it, and the Nike SB team, they're probably the same thing. They probably don't like it at all. But should they sue Warren Lotas, or do they have grounds to sue him? Grounds, I'm not a lawyer here, but they probably do if they wanted to. And that's the thing. I don't think they want to. I don't think Nike's gone after these artist customs because they're in this knockoff gray area, and it's not a big priority as much as it is going after real counterfeit syndicate gangs that are producing millions and millions of fakes out there, that actual fakes that look like Nike product. And so they probably see this as just like some small fish that they don't care. And if you're the small guy and Nike goes to war with you, Nike then elevates you to their level. It brings attention on Warren Lotas, and he would gain a lot from that. Nike doesn't want to make you famous. Nike doesn't want to get this guy any more famous than he already is at this level. So I think Nike yields this power very selectively, and I compared them to a warship. A warship is not worried about a guy, shooting darts from a raft. They're like, we got enough other big problems going on. But numbers plays a big thing. If he's a small fish, then you don't worry about it. But if if Warren Lotas left that pre-order open for a week, and instead of 25,000, he sold 750,000, which is unlikely, but this is a remake of an iconic shoe, so it could happen. Let's say Nike would probably raise an eyebrow at that. They'd be like, what is going on? And in terms of lawsuits here, what I saw is Warren doesn't use the word dunk anywhere. He doesn't use any copywritten words. That was one of the issues where I think what happened with Boost God and Adidas. Adidas owns the copyright to Boost, and the way copyright laws work are very different. Like, they're very specific, that if you do not protect your copyright, and then when someone else says, hey, look, we want to use Boost because Boost God did it and they didn't say anything, the judge could say, hey, you didn't defend your copyright, you didn't sue this guy, you didn't give him a cease and desist. So if copyright written words like dunk and things like that are used, I think Nike would be much more interested. I think very early on in like the first kind of Instagram stories at the first red Jason dunk that he did use the word dunk and stuff like that, but I think he very quickly realized and scrubbed it all out. The other guy in this is obviously Jeff Staple, and Jeff Staple owns that pigeon icon. He can put it on whatever he wants. That is his thing. And the thing about Jeff Staple is he's very still well respected in the industry, and his sign off in this shoe I think went a super long way. If he was not involved, I don't see this thing being as successful. Maybe it is, but I saw tons of people saying if Jeff is okay with it, then I'm okay with it. But it was interesting that Jeff was even working with Warren Lotas as all, but because I saw it as a sign that he's no longer working with Nike SB at all, because he did release the black pigeon dunks in 2017 and the panda pigeon dunk, whatever concept, a panda pigeon, what a shitty concept that was, as recently as, like I said, 2019. So that was last year. So that him working with Warren Lotas here, and even Sabotage, he's working on some custom that he did with him, I think it was a sign that he's no longer in a working relationship with Nike, because if he was, I think he would say no to Warren Lotas. Like, hey, I'm still working on a few official pigeon dunks with Nike, so I don't want to anger them by bringing back this iconic shoe. And so either that relationship was over, or if it wasn't, it is going to be now, because I don't think there's any coming back from this now. And the thing with Nike contracts are they're rarely discussed. Everyone is guessing on what Drake's contract status was, and it sort of came out eventually in leaks. Even Jerry Lorenzo, people were like, the contract is over, it's done. But he went on a podcast and gave interviews and said that his contract is in question, but he did say that we're working on stuff for later in the year, but a long-term thing is not set in stone yet. So no one really knows exactly what his contract status is, but I'm pretty sure Jeff Staples' contract with Nike is done, and that bridge is burnt, and I don't see that happening anytime soon. The other thing that people were critical of Jeff Staple was that he was in charge of protecting the legacy of the pigeon dunk, and what has he done? He's kind of bastardized it here with a shoe that's not going to look like a dunk at all. It's going to look like a remake, like they called it a reinterpretation. And like I said on my Twitter, shout out to the sneaker boomers for stepping up, for really actually stepping in and protecting the legacy of this shoe. For calling it what it is, that this is junk, that this is garbage, that this should not have been made, because Jeff Staples not doing it, so who's gonna? Everyone else has to step in and do that role. Well, let's try to look at it from Jeff Staples' point of view. Say his contract or status with Nike is over, that Nike has no interest in working with him, and what does he do? And say Warren Lotas approaches him with this idea. That this shoe is a classic. That it will bring in a certain amount of money for him. Do you say no? Like, I totally get it why he did it. You don't say no, even if that means burning a bridge. And so I mean, if I was Jeff Staple, I'd be like, hey guys, remember that gray shoe I did a long time ago and the people rioted? Wasn't that awesome? And he does that. He puts it on t-shirts and stuff like that. And he uses that legacy of that shoe as an inspiration for like a lot of his designs going forward. One other thing I wanted to note is that I think hidden New York Instagram influencer is to blame for a lot of this. He signs off on a lot of these Jordan knockoffs that are going. I think he's a big fan of these. And the same kind of thing where if people see Hidden New York is okay with this, then they're okay with it as well. But overall, this is happening because of how dominant Nike is. Nike is this huge player. They are, like I said, a warship. And in a weird way, this has been kind of a referendum or statement on how hard it has been for people to get dunks, and especially dunks that they can't get on like these old ones. And then out of nowhere, this dude comes along and he says, hey, you can all cop this knockoff off this iconic sneaker with the original collaborators' blessing. And, Nike's never going to do it. Here's your chance. And so Nike's to blame for that in terms of availability of their shoes. But Nike wants the availability of their shoes to be limited. Those dunks that have been those Michigan dunks and stuff that are going to stores, they're getting 20 when the demand might have been, 1,200 people trying to get them. The thing I do like about Warren Lotas and Jeff Staple doing this is that they are two guys, taking the chance. They're kind of causing trouble at a big company. And, who else is doing that? Who else is going up with their raft up against the warship? And that kind of stuff can bring out interesting artwork and bring out stuff, that's where the RE menthol 10s came out. And, but here we have two cornballs doing it. Are these the right guys doing it? And why are they doing it? The RE menthol 10s that came out, those were an artistic statement about consumerism. In this case, where is the artistic statement? The first Jason shoe, the red one that was made, that was probably qualifies. But do these qualify? I don't think they do at all. It was very telling that in the Complex podcast last week, they reached out to both Staple and Lotus, and they both declined to talk about it. They declined to talk about it because it's an obvious, blatant cash grab that they're doing. They paid for these molds. Warren Lotas paid for these molds. They must have been $10,000, $15,000 for each size. He did this huge full-size run of molds, and he probably didn't get to make his money back on that first Jason shoe he did. So he did that next Heineken one, and then he did that Stussy one, and then now he got Jeff Staple, another cornball, on board with him to say, hey, I can get you paid. Maybe they're paid off now. We got 25,000 orders here. Let's go. This is nothing like the RE menthol 10s. This is all for money. So with that said, I wouldn't be surprised if Tiffany's are next. Nikki Diamonds, expect a call if you haven't already had one. But what he's done is he's operated in this gray area really well. He doesn't use any copywritten words that are by Nike. The closest thing he does is he uses the swoosh. He uses the Jason logo because, I think he realizes that Warner Brothers or whoever owns Friday the 13th probably aren't going to sue. Whereas if he did Freddy shoes, New Line likes to sue a lot. So they'd probably jump right in on a lawsuit. And he knows that Nike doesn't like going after small guys. And he knows that there's demand for these dunks. Just look at StockX prices. And even here, they used the StockX image and just they literally used the joke tweet that I sent out. They took the StockX image and they put the Jason swoosh on it. And, the final product will not look like that. From the Heinekens that I've seen and the red Jason that I've seen, they do not look like real dunks. The actual fakes that are coming out look like real dunks. Whereas whatever the Saint Laurent factory that he found in Italy and redid the shoe from scratch did not spend the time making it look like an exact dunk. So if anything, what I know from sneaker Twitter is if you bought these on an Amex, you probably have good grounds to even charge back free shoes. This fucking guy, huh? Anyways, that's been episode 3. Thanks for listening. If you could do me a favor, can you leave a review? That goes a long way. Thank you very much. We'll see you next time.